Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show, the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have author Rebecca Hendricks. Rebecca, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks, and welcome to the show. So today we're here to talk about your book, or it looks like you actually have a series, which is pretty cool. Can you tell us a bit about your book that's newer, I guess, brand new or newer?
Yeah, it actually released at the beginning of August.
Oh, okay, so
So
very new.
yeah, it hasn't been out that long. It's the second book in the series, the Hound Dogged series.
Right.
So yes, it picks up where book one left off, and it goes more into developing the relationships of the band. They are looking for a drummer, and they come up against the feud they have with their rival band is established in book one, the dice. So in book two, they have a kind of like a showdown that
Ooh.
they're doing with them, but it kind of ends up being what neither band expects, and things kind of go south. And because it's just supposed to be a quiet show, just to see who the better band is, and
Mhm.
because the dice are popular, they're getting ready to make a record, cut a record. They agree to go under an assumed name.
Okay.
And, in this little venue, the community center, because it's a small town, and, it's the 1950s. So, it's going to be this little bit, the word leaks out and it just explodes from there.
Very cool, which is probably not uncommon to actual historical accounts for musical artists back then, yes?
Yeah. So the word leaks out, things kind of explode.
I mean, if it
Oh.
was super calm and peaceful, it wouldn't be interesting to read about. So,
Well, that's what they're hoping for. They just want to show that it's really going to be about them and not about this is the popular band and this is the unknown band. They want it to be based on talent, not the
fame.
names.
Sure, sure.
So, and then, it gets leaked out that it's really going to be the dice, and it just goes from there.
There you go. So the series is circulated around a band who go from nothing to famous. Is that the kind of premise on this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good premise, although it doesn't, things
Oh
are
yeah.
not always what they seem, I guess.
Oh yeah. Well, no, of course not. But just for those who are unfamiliar with you and
Yeah.
your works, they gotta have to have some kind of semblance of, a jump off point, yeah, as it were. So it's about them. So I'm assuming it's gonna be a trilogy then, because most, series are trilogies and then some going
Yeah, I
beyond
mean,
that.
it was originally going to be three books, but I can't, because there is so much going on.
Yeah,
There's multiple characters doing multiple things, and
sure.
I mean, it was really cool in the beginning, but now it's kind of like yikes. But so it's kind of turned into four.
Oh wow, okay, okay. I don't think people care about the trilogy,
Yeah,
stereotype anymore. I'm from
yeah,
what I'm talking
right.
to, from the people I talk to, it's like it was a trilogy. Now it's like 2,300 and a half books. Like, oh, okay, cool. Whatever floats your boat, whatever you get whatever helps you, write some more. It's all that matters. But so how long have you been working on these stories for?
Well, I originally had the idea for the story, kind of writing about a band when I was 14.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so I wrote a version of it when I was
Mhm.
14, let's say. And I mean, I wrote a lot back then because that was my form of entertainment for myself. I wrote them basically back then for myself because I wanted to have them when I got older, something to
Mhm.
read when I got older to remember. But so I ended up revisiting them, and I never really was real happy with how the story started. So I decided that I was going to rewrite it. I didn't really want to, but I ended up, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I ended up doing it anyway. And then it was just going to be for me, but my husband was like really wanting to read it really bad. And so I don't normally share my work, but I let him read it. And he was like, you got something here. You got to do something. You really got to try. And I'm like, no, I don't. Because I had tried the publishing route before and I wasn't impressed. But now self-publishing is a thing. And
It
he's
is.
like, then he pushed me and pushed me. So I decided to go for it.
Fantastic. So when did the first book, what is the title of the first book?
Hound Dogged.
Hound Dogged. Okay, so Hound Dog came out when?
It came out in June of 2023. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so darn, so pretty recently still. And
Yeah.
this last one just came out in August. I mean, you're already averaging one a year. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. Because I've
yeah.
heard that I'm supposed to be writing quicker, faster, doing more. But, when you have a full-time job and
Tell me
you
about
have
it.
a life,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you have a life on the side, that you have to sometimes do the laundry. I'm sorry, but,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
I like clean
so
clothes too. I like to
yeah,
eat and sleep sometimes.
yeah.
Showering, I hear, is really important, but whatever.
Spending time with the husband, I don't know. He just seems to think that's a thing now. But
Yeah,
anyway, so, you don't have to, life happens. And
yeah, you
so I
have
don't
to.
always get to,
Oh yeah, just sit
you
down and write for 8 hours a
yeah,
day. Yeah,
it's
no.
just it's historical fiction as well, so it takes a little
Oh,
bit
okay.
more. It takes a little bit more than just writing about you know a recent day,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
current
Yeah.
current time period.
Well, yeah, you got to get your mind right into
Yeah,
that time frame because I mean, nowadays, if you want to look something up online, oh, well, the character has this problem. Well, he can just Google it. Not in the 50s.
right.
Google was not exactly a thing, nor was smartphones and computers weren't exactly cheap or really helpful in the slightest. I mean, it's not a completely different mindset in how you tackle problems. So, and then I mean, you got the heyday with 1950s music and uproar there. I'm sure that's kind of
Yeah,
fun to dive
yeah,
into. And
yeah.
how
It
do you
has
conduct
been
your research? Are you watching films? Are you reading or all the above? What are you doing
all
with
the
it?
above. I
Yeah.
mean, I when I started and I picked the time period, I guess I really
Yeah.
didn't think too much about. I guess I kind of was like everybody else, thinking about the bobby socks and the poodle skirts and the drive-in and all of that. But, once I started really, especially looking into the history of the musical history of it, there's so much going on and so much went into it. And, it's like, so then, I started at, I mean, I kind of knew, but it's like I really delved into to the question of where did rock and roll come from? How did that happen? What did that mean? And then it just leads to a whole other thing about, when they were calling it devil's music and, what, how it wasn't received well back when it first came out. And,
Hmm.
it was like banned in a lot of places. And it's like, so part of me is like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. I actually can use that. So yeah,
Got some controversy. It's
yeah,
got some hip to it. You can work with that and play it with got some conflict to it so you can add
yeah.
some interesting things to it as well. Now, were you attracted to that era because of the music or were you attracted to that era for other reasons?
I love, yeah, the music.
Music,
And
okay.
I wanted to do something that hadn't, I guess, been done before. I didn't want to write about the long-haired rock star with all the girlfriends and all the screaming fans.
That's
I
been done
wanted to write
before.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to write something different. I wanted to write something that got went back to the beginning, but it has its pros and cons in doing that, I must say.
Oh yeah.
But
So and then
yeah,
how many characters do you have, primary characters do you have in the band? I'm assuming it's central located around the four, three, five?
it starts out it starts out as five,
Okay.
and then there's conflicts and this and that and this and that. So things change
Right.
and there's breakups and there's, like I said in the beginning of the first book, they don't have a drummer, which is one of their biggest
Problems.
hurdles that they try to get around. And
Yeah.
so, in the second one at the beginning, they're really looking for one seriously because they know that
Gotcha.
the dice can beat them on that alone because they have a drummer.
So when you said that the second book picks up right after the first book, is there a pretty healthy conclusion with the first and then it starts up, or is it kind of like a cliffhanger for the first, and then it starts up with the second book?
It's not really a cliffhanger. It's more like it's open-ended.
Oh, okay.
Like they're not like somebody's hanging out,
Yeah.
or got a gun pointed at them or something
Yeah.
like that. It's just that at the end of the book, somebody kind of ends up visiting somebody else that you would never expect.
Oh,
That
okay.
kind of open-ended stuff. It's like, well, what does that mean for
Right.
this and that? So
Okay.
yeah.
It's closure enough where they can go, cool, I completed that, but not so dramatic that like I have to read the next one right this second. Well, that's good. That
Right.
gives a little bit of a closure before going for the second one. Now, are you deep into the third one already?
Yeah, I
No.
am.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
How long
It's
did
been
it?
a challenging.
I'm sure it's been challenging. Yeah, five different characters you're keeping track of, and different personalities, and different, ways of going about how to handle certain conflicts, and probably their talking style is something
Well,
you have to manage too.
yeah, I mean, actually, five would be great. I mean, I've got more than that because
Hmm,
I've got the rival band, I've got the girlfriends,
fair enough. Yeah.
I've got.
Five would
So
be
it's like,
easy. Yeah.
yeah, that would be easy for me. And I'm like, why did I choose this path? But I'm on it now, and
Yeah. Kind of chooses us, doesn't it?
yeah,
I have the same problem. I have like a small group of main characters, and then they just kind of branch out to more. And then as they engage with the world, there's more that show up. I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm like, not everyone needs a name, just you know, faceless person instead of having this person have a character. It's so hard to keep it all straight in your head.
well, then it was really weird for me too. I mean, I guess I should have realized it at the time. I just didn't think about it that hard, but
No.
it's like I've been getting reviews where it's like, how come a lot of the boys have J names and a lot of the girls have M names? And I'm like, I I just didn't even really think about it. And they're like, well, I get confused and I have to flip back and forth between chapters to figure out who's who. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. So note for the future, but I'm like, I can't go back and change everybody's name now. I mean,
No, no, you can't. You really can't. That's a little bit of a challenge. You'd have to do a lot of rewrites and recalls, and we're not doing that. That's just not going to happen. But yeah, you learn little tricks of the trade as you go on. So
yeah,
I'm not. Are you looking past like after this series is
yes.
concluded? Are you looking towards other projects that you want to do as well?
Yes, there's a couple of standalones I want to do. They're not, I don't know. It depends on who you listen to. I mean, there's so much advice and so much out there that tells you to do this, don't do that. But they say that series are more profitable, but I don't at this point. I'm really not in it for the money. I'm really
No,
not. So
no,
I'm going to do a couple of standalones, and I do have a couple of ideas for some different
yeah.
series. And yes, I will definitely cut back the character count probably.
It's gonna
And
save your sanity a little bit,
yeah,
probably. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm asking because it's more of a labor of love than it is any kind of profit. I
yes,
mean, I work for a living still as well, so it's
yeah,
not like I am burning the candle super hard and making all this money. It's no, 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 no. That's not
no,
the case. I've been writing since I was, like you said, you started when you were a teenager. I started when I was a teenager, and I'm still doing it. So it's just something I've always loved to do. And
yeah,
whether we're amazing at it or not, yeah, okay, that's for the readers to find out. But I think over time, skills have grown with the pleasure of doing it. So
yes,
yeah, so
yeah.
that's
And it's all about trying to find your audience too.
oh God, yeah. Well, it doesn't help that it's saturated like crazy. The
Yes,
market is. I mean, where KDP and other these self-publishing things had been so great for people like us who want to get our work out there, but it's so hard to have any
right,
kind of time in a spotlight, even for a moment, to say,
yeah,
"Hey, this is something cool you guys might like." Like, oh wow, oh there's another shiny thing. Oh, there's another shiny thing. We got Squirrel
yeah.
Brain on crack. A little hard to hard to manage the marketing part of that.
Yeah, and you have to, try to beat the algorithm and oh my
Oh
gosh, am
yeah,
I posting this at the right time? How
yeah.
do I get on the radar? How do I get the Amazon ads to work for me? I mean,
It
I
can be
mean,
maddening. It can be
like you
maddening.
said, I mean, like you said, when I first decided to get published, it was like, oh, all right, great, but then it's like, oh, wait, you have to do this too. And oh, wait, you
Yeah,
got to do this. And wait, you got to learn how to market. And it's like, then your heads explode.
Yeah, then you just kind of get frustrated and walk away
Hmm.
for a little bit. So I kind of boil it down to as long as you're enjoying yourself, you're having fun with it, you're liking the stories you're writing, you're producing, you feel fulfilled right
Yeah.
there. That's awesome. And if something comes of it, even better. But you can't be doing it for that extrinsic, cash flow. It's just not, it doesn't make sense. It's not good for you health wise.
Mm.
If you're so
No,
focused on the sales, it's just probably not going to happen. But you might strike gold and get lucky one of these days. Who knows? And it's
but
just so hard.
it's like you were saying about like the bright shiny thing. It's
Yeah.
like, and then there's so many scammers out there
Oh
telling you,
my
oh, I could do this for
gosh.
you, I can do that for you. And unfortunately, yeah, I took the bait a couple of times. I'll never do that again.
Right.
But that's what upsets me the most for especially young writers or people that are wanting to do it, is to just be careful,
Yeah.
because
And
that's the
I
thing.
I recommend because I've talked to a lot of people in the last couple of years with the podcast, and several have unfortunately had your experience where they've gotten unfortunately duped. They got scammed, and it's like some people lost their rights, some people lost their manuscripts altogether, they lost money. It's what I always say is vet the people you work with, and honestly, if it's not coming from a trusted source like a friend or family member who's worked with them in the past, actually has historical, experience with that person, just avoid it. Just avoid it. So I mean, that's how I've met a lot of people I work with is word of mouth from trusted sources, from my book coach to one of my best friends. She got me involved with a networking group, got to trust them really well, and then I met a lot of people through that way and got various services that I still use to this day. And I've never been served wrong in that regard, just because I'm kind of conservative in the trust factor.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
good for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great advice. That's great advice. If you
Well,
can, but when you're new, trying to break into that network is hard, but I think
it
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 is worth
is.
it.
It is. And there's the good thing is like if you're interested too, there's various I know a couple of networking groups, at least here in Washington State, that they actually utilize Zoom and different online networking, which is amazing. Because the fact that I mean, where COVID was obviously devastating to a lot of people in various manners, it really did open up the kind of bridge the gap between the distance between East and West Coast and just distance in general. Now people can talk like you and I are from many miles away,
Yes.
and can
Yeah.
connect. I've talked to people all over the place and networked via online video chatting. So it's been huge in that regard, just in resources alone.
Well, good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have found a few people, but I'm still searching for that
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I
shiny
can.
egg.
Oh yeah. Well, let me know what you're looking for. I know I have
Okay.
think this the beauty of the podcast is I've met a lot of people and who do a lot of good stuff and they're trustworthy. So I'll happily get you in contact with them if you want. Be
That'd be
fun.
cool.
Whatever you need. It's kind of crazy the amount of folks who are coming out of the woodwork who are skilled in a variety of areas you wouldn't think of. Like, oh, you do covers? Well, that's kind of cool. Oh, you do typesetting? Oh, that's kind of cool. You do editing? Well,
Yeah,
that's awesome. So I mean, it's just really cool in marketing too. There's so many marketers. But anyway,
that's cool. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, of course. My pleasure. I just want to help people get their books out there. That's the point. So with your interest in the music aspect, I'm assuming you are a musician also?
No,
No?
I'm
Okay.
not. I just
Just a
I
music
really,
lover.
really love music. My husband was a guitar player. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
There's
I have a lot of friends that are musicians, but I personally am not one.
yeah, but you are
I'd love
definitely
to
a
be.
consumer. Yeah.
I'd love to be, because I would like to, but I don't have that. Like with the guitar, it's like, I don't know, my hands are so small almost, and I've never been really good at the
The dexterity.
yes. And so I have a character in my book actually who struggles with that. And I've really enjoyed writing him because, he's trying to fit in. He really wants so bad to make it work, but he just has that problem. He can't seem to get his fingers to go
Just
where they need to go
yeah.
fast enough. And the challenges he's coming up with, and how his friends and his bandmates are helping him along, But yeah, that's my problem. I don't have that quick thing. I just don't.
Yeah.
In anything in my life, it takes me a minute. So I've never been good at the quick stuff.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're a processor. A lot of people like to process information, and it's funny when you say that because like instinct versus overthinking. And a lot
Mhm.
of, I mean, authors tend to, you have to think through everything. You're thinking through scenes, you're thinking through every decision. So you kind of have to, process that information. And it's amazing at just when you're instinctually doing it over time at how fast you can react without even thinking about it. Because that trips you up. That trips you up all the time. It does for me. I know,
Yes,
I know it does for us
yes,
all the
very
time.
much. Yeah.
Mhm. And I saw in your bio you said you're an experienced urban explorer. What is that? What do you do? Where are you going checking out?
Well, my husband's a photographer,
Oh, cool.
so we live here in Colorado. So there's a lot of ghost towns, and there's a lot of
Ooh,
places like that. But what we learned took us a while is there's a lot of abandoned homesteads and things out east,
really?
out on the plains,
Hmm.
in the middle of like nowhere. I mean, in the middle of nowhere, you might see a cow. I mean,
Oh,
and getting off on the county roads, it can get kind of sketchy because like talk about cell service not being everywhere, and you have to be careful and you have to pay attention to your surroundings for sure.
yeah. Have you used any of the urban exploring in your first two books?
No, I haven't. I have well, actually I did have a piece, but it kind of is going to either have to wait or I cut it because I just couldn't make it work. But
Or
yeah, I mean, I did have a story in mind for a couple of ghost hunter type explorer people
that'd be
kind
cool.
of doing that for the future. I have
That'd be
thought
cool.
about that. I've thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, you could use a lot of your experiences into development there. I wasn't sure if you'd found something kind of cool like from the 50's and you're like, hey, let's have our guys kind of pass through that area. That'd be kind of neat. Play a show there or something, an old bar. I don't
Well,
know.
actually, okay. Okay, so yes, that's a good point. Yes, there is going to be an old barn.
Oh, cool. Cool.
There is actually going to be an old barn out in the, yeah, you're right. So yeah, there is that. You
Well,
read my
that's
mind.
I'm trained to do that now. I've worked very hard to try to read my interviewee's mind, try to pull out the best chat we can.
Well, they're trying to play a show off the radar, if you will. And
Yeah,
what better place to do it out in the middle of nowhere at this barn?
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because it's interesting though. You nowadays, like with marketing, we're just kind of talk market current day marketing. Back in the 50's, they didn't have the level of marketing we do now. It's a little obnoxious nowadays. It's just a
Uh,
scrolling and digital everything. How do they get the word out back in the day? It was just by word of mouth, radio, I mean, flyers, a cow that sings their tune, I don't know, moves
yeah.
their tune. I mean, what is that? How did you do that, display that in the book?
Well, yeah, because this is a small town.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, Chicago's about maybe 100 or so miles away.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, it is a small town. And so they do have a radio station,
Yeah.
but the DJ that they have for rock and roll, of course, is out of a job right now because they're getting ready to ban it. But they've been getting it out through words of flyers.
Okay. Okay.
I don't want to give too much away,
No, yeah, you
but
can't
yeah,
give too
their
much.
flyer they've been doing the flyers thing and word
Okay.
of mouth and
Oh yeah. And if it's really good, it'll just explode. It just explodes over the radio if they can get, I think, would they need a record deal to put on the radio? Or
yeah, that's what the dice are putting together. They've actually got a contract.
okay. Okay. Interesting.
Mhm.
So like I know you're a very busy person. You work you're an accountant and judicial assistant.
Yeah, I work for the courts in Denver.
Okay. And so I'm assuming you're probably a writer. Are you a writer in the morning before you go to work or when you get home?
Yeah, I'm not a real morning person,
Yeah.
so I try to. It does tend to be more in the afternoon, evening
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll write on my lunch hour or something, or
Oh, there you go. There you go.
or at home mostly. I know that there's a lot of coaches that tell you to get up and do it early, but I'm not good in the morning.
It's
Uh,
yeah, I mean, well, it depends on the coach. I mean, if you got, I mean, my job would not does not allow me to do that. I get up at 3:30 in the morning to go to
oh
work. So
my.
it's yeah, it's I work long days so I can have Fridays off. I work 4 10s and it works really nice
Oh,
for to
yeah.
do this, to do podcasting.
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to because family life, I got two young kids. It's just there's no way. And it's loud in the house. So it's like doing an interview when there's people in the house is very challenging. I have to schedule my time because there's there's no other way to do it. And it's
Yeah.
usually for me, it's in the evening. It has to be in the evening. I can just put my earbuds in, throw some kind of noise canceling thing on, and then I just try to write my way to to oblivion when I get the chance. Because morning time doesn't work for me either, unless I'm truly inspired and I've gotten enough sleep prior.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when do you sleep if you're working at
Oh, I just sleep when it comes bedtime about 9:30. I'm asleep. Wake up by 3:30. Get to work by 4:30, and then
Wow.
yeah, and then just I give myself a word quota. I don't do a time of the
Okay.
day because it just depends, right? So
Yeah,
Saturday,
right.
yeah. So right now we're in the middle of soccer season. So in the morning we're just gone on Saturdays and the evenings are booked. So it's just literally I have an hour and a half block between here and dinner that I could work. Then that's when I'm gonna write my quota of 500 to 1,000 words. All right, okay, cool. I've got my quota. I feel accomplished. I go take care of the
Yeah.
kids or something. So it's literally I have to schedule it or it doesn't happen. I have to carve it out or it doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
you're right. You're
Yeah.
totally right.
But yeah, so I mean, as long as you're doing it, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild. And I've never been good with the word count thing because
Yeah.
I mean, I know they say just write whatever. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't just write whatever because then
Mhm.
I'm going to have to go back and fix it, which is going to take twice as long than if I would have just done it right the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely fought with that too. Is I'll do as best I can as long as I'm
Yeah.
progressing it. If I'm writing notes, I count that even as word count because it's technically you wrote something. Or recently this week it's been kind of challenging because we were really so busy. And so I just did like a journal entry or something. Okay, I wrote 500 words. Wasn't for the book, but I wrote 500 words. All right, cool. I feel good. Even if I'm in 350, whatever. It's close
Do
enough.
you do you do you carve out time to do your marketing stuff as well? I mean, is it an
Yeah.
extra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's I usually carve that out like Sunday afternoons where we're
Okay.
pretty calm and relaxed. We've had breakfast. We don't have anything going on. I'll do about an hour of just managing marketing. And then the podcast does a great job of marketing too. So, because it gets my face out there, my voice out there, or mostly my voice out there. Uh, and then I get to talk to folks like yourself. And the podcast has done a great more or less for resources for me. And then over time, as we keep continuing growing, yeah, then more for it'll make a more of an impact on the book. So it's everything's a slow roll to, to the finish line, if that's
Yes.
the
Yeah, if that's
appropriate,
a thing, if that's
if
a
that's a
thing, if this
thing,
even exists.
to the goal. We'll just say it's a
Yeah, to the
goal.
goal.
To
That
the
that yeah, that's
goal.
a good way.
I'm not crossing a finish line. It's just a goal. So
Yeah.
just to try to sell more stuff. It makes for a very busy lifestyle, but
Mm.
I'm never bored. I'm never bored.
No, I'm not
No.
either.
Yeah. And then that's good because boredom, that's a killer. Boredom's a killer. Yeah, I don't know about you, but um
Yeah, it is. Mhm.
what are you doing any not events, but are you doing any book sales or anything like that, like physical book sales? I know it's probably getting closer to the cooler time of year. We're starting to head that way, but is there anything like that in your area?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't really got out and like tried to
Do anything
do any
physical?
of that stuff
Yeah,
around
it's challenging though.
here. Yeah, and I feel like my plate is full right now with the writing and just wrapping my head around doing the whole, you know, emailing and the whole website and getting the newsletter and all that has just been really like a time suck
It
because
is.
I've been dealing with some fallout from the people that set my website originally.
Oh, I
It's
see.
just been like this bumpy road trying to
Gotcha.
get it figured out and fixed. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I just feel like that. And then, of course, with everything else, like having the full-time job. And then for some reason, I guess it's because I'm older, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around a lot of this
Oh, the new stuff.
technology
Yeah.
stuff. And it changes every time I think I got it. And so it's just been a lot. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking my hope is for when I get ready to launch book 3, maybe
Yeah.
I can have some more of that
Hmm.
stuff in place.
Yeah.
But
At the same time, I mean, I've only done a few events myself, and really they weren't, devastatingly amazing. They weren't like life changing or anything like that. And more or less, it was actually just fun to get out and uh, we did a couple local author events, which was kind of cool, like art sales, and that was kind of fun to just be around other people who were like-minded like us, where we sit around and create stuff all the time. It was cool to connect with them and see some readers and talk with them about what books they like and such like that. So that was exciting. I didn't get a huge amount of sales, but it was just fun to network and get out and enjoy myself. But they're far and few between. Unfortunately, we don't have a great deal of that stuff going on. And a lot of stuff is online so much. I
yeah,
mean, most people, my wife is a great example. She reads ebooks pretty much exclusively. So she'll go and download everything there and she'll stay home and she'll read through a book or two a weekend. And we really don't go to the bookstore too much because of the access we have nowadays. So that's kind of the struggle with doing anything physical.
well, I have a hard time because I don't really ever find what I really want to read at the bookstore.
No,
And I don't have like you said, the time to just kind of wander around and look at everything and wonder where it's at or anything. It's just easier to do it online.
Google makes things a lot easier. I
Yeah,
like this, and I'm going to go, oh, cool. So yeah, it's hard to navigate all that stuff. But I mean, really, with the YouTube University, we can we can learn a lot of different
exactly.
things like you're
Yeah.
talking about ads and stuff like that to hopefully help a little bit. But it's really just trial and error is a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it's great when you finally learn about Professor YouTube. It's like,
Yes.
ooh,
Yeah, I am a diehard student of YouTube
yeah,
University.
me too.
So
Me
yeah,
too.
I go back there and watch video after video and write down what I take from it and I try it, chew it, spit it out. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try something else. That's all you really can do and just network with people. But anyway, going forward with the current books you have out, what feedback have you gotten from your readers?
It's been great. I mean, I've been getting good reviews.
Good.
I got some reviews on NetGalley, which were really, really positive and really good, but you know, they didn't really transfer over to like Goodreads or Amazon.
Sure. Sure.
And I mean, it's been a struggle. I guess you might say that's one of the hardest parts that I've had
Yeah.
is getting the reviews um, that I need. I mean, the new one hasn't gotten very many, and I think one of the things that people about my book is they find it intimidating because it's 400 and some plus pages.
Oh,
But
okay.
I
That's a
mean
nice
the
hefty book. Huh.
but the well, but the it's because of the font
Oh, it's
is
cool.
a good size.
Bigger.
There's like spaces, it's not all, so it's like there's like empty spaces and stuff. So that's why I think it's so long, because
Ah.
on like the on my computer it's only like 200 and something
Oh,
pages.
interesting. Interesting. But just the typesetting and the font size, that can
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm trying to like tell people like, well, the book's really long. I'm like, no, it's not.
Hmm.
It's really not. Like you look at paperbacks, little tiny paperbacks, like the pocket ones you put in your back pocket.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it's a 550-page book. Yeah. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not. It's not.
and plus, a lot of them were like with the first book because it sets up how everybody meets, how everybody gets together,
Yeah.
kind of like a little bit of story about their background. So they were like, well, it's got a slow start. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I didn't jump right in the middle of, the sword fight and the lightning and flashing, you
Right.
know. I mean, it's an historical fiction novel, and I wanted to establish everybody so
Hmm.
that everything else makes sense going forward,
Yep.
and you can relate to them and you can feel what they're going through.
Yep. Yeah, you have to have the rising action, and
So
that's a part of the problem.
I
Well,
don't know if it's because of the readers of today, just they just want it now. They want that action. It's like, well, then read an action novel, read something else, you know.
historical fiction, you're reading it to learn about the past in by following fictional characters about real events. So it takes time to get the rising action to the point where you actually care enough about the characters and what's actually going
Yes,
on for when the action
yes,
hits you, and then it hits at
yes,
an emotional level. So it's not just a whoa, that was really cool, fireworks. Like, yeah, that's
yeah.
cool, but what did you learn? What did you get out of it? Well, it was just cool. Like, great. That's not very. It's very surface. It's very
Well, then
surface.
I got a 2-star review from a gal who said that, you know, she said, oh, it was an okay book or something, but then she said maybe it would have helped if I'd have read the first one. It's like, well, do you think? Do you think? So thanks for the 2-star review on.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like,
Just yeah,
oh
brush that one
man,
off. Just
yeah,
brush that one off. That one's silly. Like, well, yeah. Now, I mean, yes, okay, there are like oh, what do you mysteries and thrillers. You know, I
yeah.
one of my favorite series is the Bosch series from Michael Connolly.
Oh,
I've
I
read
love Bosch.
I do too. I've loved
Yeah,
him forever. And I started with book one because I'm just that kind of reader. I will go
yeah,
all
me
the way
too.
back. I think it came out in like the 70s or early 80s. And so I read Black Echo and then kept going on from there. And then I wanted to bounce around a little bit because I wanted to see a little more modern day stuff that he's done. It did not take away from it because that's how mystery thrillers are kind of penned, where they follow, yes, it's the same character, but it doesn't really matter. The details don't matter per
Right,
book about what happened
right.
last time. They'll notate it. But you have a story like yours or many others. Read that stuff chronologically. Could you imagine reading Lord of the Rings book three like
Oh
first?
yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
not.
No,
No,
no.
you're not doing that. Read from book one. That's
You write fantasy,
I
right?
read fantasy,
Yeah.
yes.
So people should expect that book to be long, right?
Yeah, they expect it. My first one is like 80,000 words.
Okay.
And it was gonna be longer, but working with the my editor or my coach, and they're like, you probably want to keep it smaller for your first one. It's like, okay, I can do that. I'm glad they did. Otherwise, they would never have gotten out. Because my second book that's currently in work, it's beta readers right now. That one is twice the size of the first one because of just how the world building and everything. But
Hmm.
fantasy is notoriously a thicker word count versus historical fiction. I've seen some being very narrow and some being pretty big, depending on the topic.
Right.
So yeah, it just depends on what you're working on. So, I mean, what did you know the word count for your books?
Well, yeah, I know the first one's like 160 maybe.
160?
Yeah, I
Yeah, that's
think.
solid. I like that. That's my second one's 160. It's a chunky book.
Yeah,
It's got some girth
yeah,
to it. But I mean, as long as the story's flowing, you got good dialogue. So, I mean,
yeah.
are you someone who likes to write the dialogue or do you like the setting? What do you prefer? What do you prefer? What do you get excited to write about?
I like writing dialogue,
Yeah,
and I've been
it's
told
fun.
that's my strong part. That
Yeah.
everybody says that's my strong suit. I'm not a I still I've been working on it very hard, struggling with the description piece
Mm,
because I don't, and I guess maybe it's partly because I don't like to read it. So, but I'm getting better at it. I think I've
yeah.
gotten a lot better at it than I was, but it is a constant thing. Another thing I struggle with is starting a chapter,
Oh, I
and and
know.
and it's like for some reason that's a problem for me. But I mean I do it and I'm getting through it, but
Yeah.
it's like, and then coming up with the whole new, like, the actions or like the taglines, you know, trying to make it new and exciting instead of, well, he said again, or he leaned, or he put his hand in his pockets, or he scratched his
Yeah.
head. And it's kind of like, ugh, you don't want to go too far and to say that stuff too much.
Nah,
So it's
yeah,
like, oh my gosh. And then you
yeah,
read, and then if you read enough, then it's like, well, don't use this word, don't use that word, don't say this, show, don't tell, and like, it gets to be a lot.
yeah. I mean, you can show, don't tell, obviously, when you're descripting, but honestly, I found it's way better when you just do it with dialogue. Like you're describing the world with the character. Awesome. That saves you a lot of time and energy
Hmm.
too. And for some reason, I just discovered this. Like, I mean, literally last 2 months from starting a chapter, because I had the same problem you do, where it's like chapter whatever. And I
Yeah.
look at the blank screen and I stare at it. We have a stare down for 30 minutes. And then I finally write 2 words and then I delete them. And I keep, it's just this constant tug of war fight until I just like I need a drink and I go, loosen it up with some whiskey and then I start working. It's and then I'm distracted by my boys and stuff. So anyway, I found for some reason starting with a quotation, a dialogue, for some
Hmm.
reason seems to just open the door and I the trap door and I'm able to go for it. I have no idea why, but I just like someone says something. Oh, okay. And now the scene opens up. All of a sudden I'm able to go for it. I have no idea why that just works for me, but because before I'd start with the setting. Nope, not anymore. I have to do it with dialogue now. So I don't know if something you do.
I've recently kind of started to do that every now and again because, well, when I was learning, it was like you never do that. But I'm like,
Yeah.
with you, it's like that's totally helpful in some spots
Yeah.
because I had a chapter in the last book where I didn't need to set the scene. It was obviously that
Right.
Patrick was not happy. So why not just start with him saying, what were you thinking? Or,
Yeah.
I can't remember what he says exactly, but it's like, what? You did what?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I look at some of these awesome books. The Martian by Andy Weir. Is it Weir? Wire? Whatever. How do you say his name? He literally opened up with a swear word. I'm like, heck yes, this is great.
Yeah.
Why is he saying this? And then you start going, beautiful. And another author I interviewed way back when I first started this, he wrote a book about it was a fictional book on baseball, one of his favorite sport. And apparently the very opening scene of the book was just it just flopped. He goes, his editor was like, everything is so good except the first scene. He's like, ouch, okay. So he goes, you need to go back and jump right into the action. Now, the action in this case was just a conversation between a couple guys. That's all it was. But he had set the scene, made it way too flowery, way too,
Hmm.
trying to make it really illustrious and beautiful. And how we like to
Hmm.
get really
Yeah.
poetic with our language. He's like, no, scrap it. These guys talking about sports and eloquence is not a thing. Let's just do this. So he just threw it in there and it was so much better. The action
Hmm.
was the dialogue in that case.
Yeah.
So, and he said it made it 10 times better opening with that. I'm like, wow, okay. So I kind of took that, what he told me, and then reading a couple other stories, fiction, and I'm like, I think I need to start with some dialogue. And it just worked. I don't know. I can't explain it. It just worked.
Yeah, because I think that's what it finally comes down to is like, because I know for me when I first got started in this, like I wanted to be, so perfect. I wanted everything to be perfect. Like you said, the flowery language and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, just to have capture people's attention, like, oh, like, but
I'm
then,
so smart. Look at all the words I
yeah,
know.
yeah, and then it's like, you try to follow all the rules. Don't use this word, don't use that word, don't do this, don't do that. And then finally, I think especially with this book, I'm kind of like, you know what? I think I've established my voice and I'm just going to do
Do you?
what feels right to me and what works for me.
Yeah, as
And
you
if
should.
it happens to align with the stars, then great. I just want to do me.
Yeah. And I think, well, again, for more, I took the summer off from doing any podcasting. I was trying to focus on writing and listening to listening to other authors talk about their books, like nonfiction. Um, it sounded like when you're just plain old honest, so you try to you break the barrier down and be honest in what you're writing and your honest voice, it's a lot more interesting anyway. If you're trying to be poised and structured the entire time, it gets kind of dull. So if you're able to just break out, you have more fun with it, it's more honest, and then the readers can translate it to going, okay, this has got some grit. I like this. I want to keep reading it. And that's just what I've heard from several books I was listening to this last summer is just be honest to how your voice is without having to tweak it too much to think like you're catering to a certain audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah, if that
do.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah. So after writing two books, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
It's almost like, and it's exhausting to keep up, trying to fit into somebody else's, mold. It's like, I know that when I was young and in high school, my creative writing teachers just didn't they didn't understand me because they told me, well, you have to have an outline, you have to write in this little box, you have to do this first and then this first, and I never did. I've never done it that way. I just
Yeah.
write. I
Yeah.
just sit and write, and they're like, how did you do that? How did you get this out of that? And I'm like, that's just how I write.
Yeah.
I don't make an outline. I don't sit there. I'm a pantser for one thing,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I didn't know that for years, but
You and a lot
I
of people. Yeah.
I just thought I was a weirdo. But
No.
I mean, it was like, because I never followed, what's this, what's that, blah, 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 blah. I just can't write like that. I can't.
Yeah. Well, when you think of creative folks, like my son is a great example. He's 8, but he is very creative. He's making those own little comic books and they're very extensive. But when it comes to like messiness and structure, what's structure? Forget that noise. He's just he he is the stereotypical creative kid, and it's
Good
just
for
like,
him.
what is mess? So it's like it drives me crazy because I like some order. Now
Structure.
I like a mess too. But when you're managing everything, it's kind of hard. It's just like when it comes to creativity, I love it. I'm like, yeah, make a mess, make things weird. Who cares? That's the
Yeah.
best way to do it. And honestly, I've had my best epiphanies when I don't think about it. It's like, oh, this is
Yes.
an idea. Let's run
Yes.
down this avenue. Now I've done outlines and I use quotations, very large quotations because I have with when I'm creating mine, I have events in my head that I want to have happen because I've dreamt about them for years. And so I
Hmm.
have event A, B, C, D, whatever, and then finish. Cool. What happens in the middle? I'm not really married to. Those events I am absolutely 100% infatuated with. So I have to make those events happen. The other little stuff, whatever. And if I can make it more interesting along the way because another thought sparks,
Yes.
we're going to go with that one. That's my outline, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. Because
Yeah,
I know I said I'm a pantser, but I do have to have some kind of idea. I do have, like you said,
100%.
the events and how I'm going to get from point A to point B. I mean, I
Yeah,
do have that kind of in my head. I mean, I don't just sit down and, but like you said, whatever happens in between and how I get there is, the
it's
creativity part for me. But yeah, you're
yeah,
right. I do have those events in place in my
yeah.
mind. Yeah.
Because that's what I've always. Whenever I get to those events, it's so much
Hmm.
fun. Oh my gosh, it's like you're
Yeah.
watching a favorite movie or a movie you've been waiting for
Hmm.
forever, and that you get to create it on paper. It's just super exciting. But I mean, I don't know about you. I get in that zone. It doesn't happen all the time. I get in that zone and I'll kill 3, 4 hours and not even think about it. Like, where did
Yes.
the time go? Holy crap. Where did the time go? But it takes work to get in that flow. I mean, do you
Yeah.
experience that a lot? Do you experience the flow a lot, or is it kind
Yeah.
of a hit or miss?
Well, I've learned, for me anyway, it's like, we were talking about the plan time and all of that. I mean, if I'm not feeling it, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
I've learned that too. It's like if I sit down and I'm like, okay, I really want to write, and it's like there, whatever the muse or whatever you want to call it is saying,
Yeah.
well, I don't. I mean, nothing. Everything I write is just junk, and I don't like it.
Hmm.
And so I've learned that if I just stop and just go do something else, I mean, instead of wasting my time, making myself upset and going down rabbit holes in my brain,
Yeah.
like, all those things you say to yourself when you can't get
Yes.
what you want, to just step away and take a break and be like, oh yeah, and then come back at some other time. It,
Rejuvenated. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because and then I know you said something about, writing for an hour or whatever. I'm sorry if I've wrote whatever I need to within 45 minutes, and
Oh,
anything else
100%.
I if I'm because it's like there's this thing in me that's like, oh, when I'm done, I'm done.
Yep.
I can't keep going.
And I heard like
And
Ernest Hemingway did that, and I actually love this. He goes, "I go until it just before it starts to get tiresome." And I'm like, yeah, me too. So like just the other day, I sat down, I wrote for literally 20 minutes. I punched out about 500 words in about 20 minutes. I was done. I'm like, I'm starting to get tired. I don't know what's coming next. I'm done.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah.
And so I'm very realistic with it. Sometimes there's a scene that I really want and I'm focused and it takes me an hour to get that 500 words, but I'll have to I just carve out, I have 1 to 2 hours to work on this. If I get done, like you said, really quick, cool. Then I just
Mhm.
bonus an hour and a half. If it
Right.
took me a long time, well, then I had the 2 hours carved out anyway. So it's a win-win. It's very loosey goosey, but I try to just maintain the habit of sitting down to write because it's something I've always enjoyed. So I sit down with
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
very very non-distracting music or sounds, put it in there, and just kind of get
Yes.
intoxicated with what story or idea I've got, play with it, and again I give myself some grace. I'm very busy, so if I end my idea and I'm like I have 406 words, oh well my quota is 500. Don't care. It's close enough. The glass isn't overflowing. I don't care. I did the habit. Now I can go do the laundry or go clean the bathrooms or go do groceries or something. You know what I mean? I try to have that wiggle room and it's made me feel a lot better. Like I don't feel guilty when I don't meet my quota. I don't feel guilty, for not making as much progress as I want. I'm making progress. I feel good. So it's so hard.
I'm glad you said the thing about grace because yeah, you know, it took me a while to learn that, because well, I'm a perfectionist and you can't be. And it's like, so just being able to give myself a break and say,
Yeah.
hey, it's it's okay that today you're just not feeling it, or today you don't necessarily know what the next step is in this journey of
Right.
theirs or whatever, but that is huge.
Mhm.
And because I beat myself up, well, I beat myself up all the time for whatever reason,
Yeah.
but I'm really starting
To help
to
with.
kind of let that go a little bit and not
Yeah.
be so critical and beat
Yeah.
myself up.
I know. I definitely did. And just because I just recently, like last month or so, 2 months, I finally got into a decent groove where I'm not necessarily like hyper productive where I'm getting cramming out 2,000 words and it's the best thing ever. No, no, no. Not even close. It's I I heard this quote from one of my coworkers. Actually, he heard it from a buddy of his. And he says basically people overestimate what they can do in a day and they underestimate what they can do in a year. And I thought about that. I'm like, holy crap, that's profound because how many times we're like, I'm gonna do all this work, whether it's home stuff, work stuff, writing, and then you don't get it done and you feel I should have done so much more. No, you compound that small little bit, that 400, 200, 100,000 words a day into an entire 365-day year. Holy crap, you have an actual product or you have some serious work you got done. So it's just getting okay with being patient and maintaining a consistent, pace. That right there, after I was kind of combo of everything I've been going through, all of a sudden my anxiety, my guilt for not writing as much as I want has kind of started to filter away, which has been feeling really good for me at least. So hopefully something you can take away from too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's hard though.
Yeah, it is. It is. I
Yeah,
mean, it's easy to tell. It's easy to say stuff, but
it is.
it's
It's
another to do
harder to
it.
act. Harder to
Yeah.
act. Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. I've been struggling for that for several years since I came out with my stuff, 4 years ago. It's just ins and outs. I go from ups and downs really easily, just from what I want to see done versus what is actually done.
But
But
it's worth it, like you said. I mean, you're like, you're meeting all these amazing people, you're making contacts, you're networking.
yeah,
I mean, so I mean, it is all totally worth it
it
when you
is.
do hook up with somebody that
Yeah, that you can
hears you.
connect with. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's fun. It's fun though. So it's gravitating towards like you've been doing forever. It's doing something you've enjoyed, which has been writing since you were a teenager. And you've gotten 2 books out of the deal, and you are also working on more things, and it keeps you occupied and keeps you alive. So it's just maintaining that, holding on to that for the rest of your life, and I think that's pretty fulfilling. So
Yeah, I do
that's
too.
that's my opinion on that regard. I wanted to ask a couple more things before we sign off, but I saw here that you have your father's antique typewriter.
I do.
Do you write on it?
No, but when I was young, I did, and
Okay,
I didn't
that'd be
know how
kind
to
of
type.
cool. Yeah.
I didn't know how to type, so I was one fingered.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, it's funny. I don't know if but those old antique typewriters, those keys are hard.
Oh yeah,
I
you
mean,
have
you're
to.
gonna push down hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I didn't know how to type. So I did it one finger because I did a couple of plays
Oh, okay.
with some friends of mine. I wrote and directed and produced a couple of plays in the area
Oh,
when I
really?
was a
Well, there you
kid.
go.
Yeah. And
Cool.
so I had to write a script that they could read because my handwriting is obnoxious. So that's why I had to type it. And oh yeah, my mother always used to say, "What are you doing? Practicing to be a doctor?" But I mean,
Yeah.
just the way I wrote, but my handwriting it's really bad because I wrote so fast.
Yeah, me
When
too.
I was a kid writing stories, I just would write them so fast, just as quick as and so they're like kind of scribbly,
It
and
looks
that's
like cursive,
cursive.
but it looks like print, but it looks just like scribbles. What is it? I can read it, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can read it. I know my
Well,
writing.
I'll tell you, going back and reading those old books, there was a few times I was kind of like, what? What is
The
that?
hell word is this? Maybe they were right about my penmanship. I had to slow down a little bit. I have great penmanship when I slow down. The problem is my
Yeah,
brain won't let me slow down. I have all these.
exactly.
If I don't write them down right now, I'm going to lose them. They're going to evaporate. I have to write them down this moment. So,
Yes.
cell phones make it a lot easier to get those notes out. I have to pull over the side of the road, I swear, half the time just to whip the phone out and type out what I'm thinking, and then okay, I can
I
continue.
have a I struggle with that because I don't know, I guess I'm too fat fingered or something.
Oh, I
I
am
have to be
too.
really when I'm texting, it's terrible. So I have to
I
watch myself.
Yeah, it's true too. Yeah. I mean, whatever way you get your notes is how it's supposed to be. But anyway, well, hey, okay, so I gotta know, people gotta know, where do we get copies of Hound Dogged and Hard Dogs Nights? Where do we get a copy of your book and learn more about you and your upcoming books that are gonna come out here in the near-ish future?
My books are available on Amazon, and I do have a website. It's RebeccaHendricksAuthor.com.
Nice.
I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under RebeccaHendricksAuthor.com.
Fabulous.
My hope is to start a newsletter here very soon, and the site how you sign up for that is on my website. There's a sign up,
Very cool.
and there's also like if you sign up, you get some free extra content and kind of
Oh,
like a little origin story. So yeah,
cool. God, everyone loves free stuff.
yeah.
They really do.
Oh yeah.
Everyone loves free stuff. Well, cool. Rebecca, thanks for coming on here. It's been a
Thank you.
good chat with you. It's been a quick hour. It went by very
It
fast.
was, yeah, it did. It was
Yeah, it's
great,
good.
Ryan. Thank
I'm
you.
You're very welcome. And I'll say right now, again, as your other books come out and you get more and more notoriety and all the things, we can chat again if you'd like to market some more stuff. I'd be
Yes,
happy to meet up again.
that would be awesome.
All right, cool. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this and it was a wonderful conversation. Go check out Rebecca Hendricks' books on her website, Amazon, the like. Leave her a review because you know what? Authors need reviews. We just do. Go do it. Maybe more than 2 stars, like 4 or 5 would be really good.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
And reading them, we really like when you read our books. So go do that too. That's really what we want. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Go check her out. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, stay mighty and keep reading.